Now that the video song has been out, the hip-hop industry is in complete disarray. In the shadowy corners of the music industry, rumors have been circulating for years. However, the quiet has been broken today. The uncontested master of social media warfare, 50 Cent, recently detonated a nuclear bomb on the Southern King's reputation with his music. We are discussing leaked video music evidence that purports to demonstrate T's involvement in the systematic abuse. A female fan claims that the content is so gruesome and unsettling that it has shocked Hollywood. However, you were mistaken if you believed that T was music going to see his legend fade. Following the leak, there are reports of a violent music altercation in which T allegedly struck 50 Cent out of wrath. This is no longer simply your average rap feud. Legal accusations, physical aggression, and a desperate struggle for survival are all part of this high-stakes war music. We are dissecting every second of that leaked video in this video. What precisely does it display? Why did 50 Cent decide to expose his longtime competitor at this particular moment? And who are the women involved? We'll also take you inside the purported physical altercation that took place behind closed music doors when T finally lost it. Is T's career coming to an end? Or is 50 Cent settling an old score through a risky game of editing and manipulation? The streets are chatting, the industry is picking sides, and the receipts are on the table. Music don't blink, because the information we're going to share will alter your perception of these two icons. The most explosive scandal of the year is broken down here. Let's face reality. We must examine Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, the guy behind the curtain, in order to comprehend the seriousness of what just transpired. 50C, who is regarded as the ultimate international music petty monarch, not only initiates beefs, but also expertly completes them. He has been hinting to Atlanta's own T on Instagram for weeks, sharing hazy pictures and ambiguous music cautions. However, not even the most seasoned industry insiders anticipated the uncut, unprocessed footage that ultimately appeared on the timeline. Hip-hop's digital world was irrevocably altered when the post button was eventually pressed. This wasn't a smart caption or a diss track. The darkest rumors that had been plaguing Tip's reputation for years looked to be confirmed by this graphic indictment music. The video itself, which seemed to be a combination of handheld Fleeto recordings and CCTV footage, reveals a side to T music that runs counter to his image as a stately, elegant gentleman. We observe a chaotic backstage music scene after a large music event in the main clip, which is several years old but has only recently surfaced. Tension permeates the air. According to the footage, music, T and a group of young women who were purportedly invited to an after-party engage in a violent physical altercation. What begins as a verbal argument soon becomes more heated. The hostility is clearly audible despite the scratchy audio. The King of the South can be seen music towering above a certain admirer. His body language was predatory and menacing, and security guards' music didn't only release the video. Rather than diffusing the situation, they seemed to be creating a human wall to stop anyone from filming or interfering. In order to maximize the damage, he carefully selected it, in order to create a startling contrast and make the alleged assault appear even more deliberate. He intercut the video with prior interviews in which T talked about chivalry and community protection. The caption for 50 was a masterclass in psychological deception. He wasn't who he claimed to be. I told you. When the camera's music aren't supposed to be rolling, this is how he handles his record buyers. I have several more clips similar to this one. Who comes next? T wasn't the only target of this attack. The entire industry system, which has supposedly shielded this behavior for decades, was in danger. Music, the court of public opinion, convened as the number of views reached tens of millions in the first hour. Allegations of sexual misconduct and maltreatment of women have been made against Music T and his wife, Tiny Harris. For years, these accusations have been fiercely refuted and battled in court, but those were primarily he said, she said situations. The visual context that the public has been longing for was delivered by this footage. The optics music are devastating. Even if the video doesn't depict a finished crime in the legal sense, we witness supporters being pushed, phones being taken from their hands, and verbal abuse that verges on the insane. It depicts a man who feels untouchable, someone who sees his admirers as property that can be punished or thrown away at any time rather than as supporters. This leak's timing music is also quite suspicious and cleverly calculated. In an attempt to shift away from the troubled rapper narrative that has followed his several prison stays, T.I. Music was in the midst of rebranding, concentrating on his stand-up comedy career and serious acting gigs. 50 Cent has successfully taken over T's story by releasing this music video right now. His most recent comedy special and his community service are no longer featured in every search result for T. It has to do with the abuse video. It's 50 Cent's autograph. Maffei is not merely interested in winning the debate. Music, he wants to take away your ability to conduct business. He is aware that perception is reality in the media cycle of 2026. Music. Your brand deals go if the public believes you abuse women. Your legacy becomes a footnote in a scandal when your bookings music dry up. A Pandora's box concerning the hip-hop code of silence has also been opened by the leak. Why was this music video kept under wraps for so long? Although many think that this film has been circulating in high-level circles as music blackmail material for years, 50 Cent claims to have obtained it from a disgruntled music former employee of the venue. Music 50 is positioning himself by bringing it to light. He is demonstrating to the public as a vigilante that he is the only one who is sincere enough to reveal the hypocrites. The King of the South moniker, which was previously a sign of pride and regional domination, is now being ridiculed in the comments music sections and replaced with labels like the Bully of the South. Even if his personal motivations are based on music, a 10-year grudge. However, the real explosion occurred when T-Music discovered the post. In order to refute his opponents, T typically responds with a 10-minute film that uses large words, music, and a composed, scholarly tone. Not now. The unvarnished quality of the video struck a chord that reason was unable to mend. The streets of Atlanta were already bustling when T's social media went black 2 hours after the leak. According to people close to the Grand Hustle camp, T was furious. Music, the fan base is clearly divided since they see this as a direct threat to his freedom, and Music his family's safety rather than as a social media troll. On the one side, proponents of cancel culture are calling for T.I.'s immediate removal from all platforms, using this video as the smoking gun they've been waiting for. However, T supporters are pointing out that 50 Cent is a well-known clout chaser Music, who has a track record of altering videos to disparage his rivals. They contend that what transpired prior to the camera beginning to film is not visible to us. Was the fan acting hot? Did she pose a threat to his family? In 50 Cent's world of music, content is more important than context. A man's life could be ruined by the music in this video. The digital fuse has been lighted, Park concludes. The video is being debated on all major news outlets, duplicated on YouTube, and trending on Music X. However, something even more deadly was developing behind the scenes, as everyone was busy checking their feeds for an answer. The conflict on the internet was about to get violent. 50 Cent may have prevailed in the initial online round, but he misjudged Music, how a man with nothing left to lose would respond when forced into a corner. The leak was only the start. No. Not even 50 Cent was ready for the actual violence that was about to break out in a face-to-face confrontation. Music. The shockwaves of 50 Cent's message were still resonating throughout the digital world. However, a much more harmful reality Music was taking place in the actual world while the internet was occupied with discussing the ethics of the leak. If there's one thing we know about T, it's that Music study takes his status and role as King of the South very seriously. For T, this wasn't simply another instance of online harassment from a New York rapper. This was a direct attack on his legacy in his own backyard, his family, his character, and music. The Grand Hustle general had no intention of sending a C. Sandy's record or letter. This time, it's a 10-minute Instagram live explanation with Music. No amount of loud words Music could make up for the contempt that had gone too far. In a matter of seconds, the mood at a posh lounge in Atlanta, where 50 Cent was allegedly having a promotional event for his Music, Sire Spirits brand, changed from festive to deadly in Music. According to numerous insiders and eyewitnesses at his VIP table, 50 Cent, who is renowned for his unbeatable character, was allegedly laughing and making fun of the leaked video. The lounge's doors opened, and the witnesses said they had never seen the expression on Tia's face before. Before Music 50 Cent security could even register the danger, there was a mixture of cold, calculated rage and the unadulterated desperation of a cornered animal. T was in the VIP area already. There was no way to discuss it. Music, no cautions were given. According to reports, T got past the guards so quickly that it appeared he was on a mission to physically quiet the man Music who had just attempted to ruin his career. The fight was called pure chaos. All Music, EJDLY leaped at 50 Cent, swinging with such intensity that the rapper from the NDA club was totally unprepared. 50 Cent, who has survived 9 shootings and is no stranger to violence, attempted to get up, but the little space Music of the VIP booth made it almost difficult for him to fight himself effectively. Music, the cries of spectators filled the air as tables were overturned and pricey champagne bottles broke on the ground. This battle wasn't staged for a film. Two multimillionaires who had quickly returned to their street roots got into an ugly, high-stakes fight. The report's most startling finding is that T Music wasn't merely throwing punches. According to reports, he was yelling about his family and the fictitious proof that 50 had planted. Security was able to bring T back at one music point, but he managed to escape, taking a heavy glass decanter off a nearby table and flinging it in 50 Cent's direction. Music, it broke against the wall behind him, missing by only a few inches. There was a lot of irony. In front of a room full of people with cell phone cameras, 50 Cent, the music artist who had recently been accused of abuse in a leaked film, was now demonstrating his music ability for extreme violence in real time. T was eventually pinned against a music wall by 50 Cent's security, but the damage had already been done, with his clothes ripped and his face clearly scarred from the altercation. 50 Cent was spotted being hurried out the back exit. Being physically addressed in such a public and violent way was a huge blow to Music, the ego of a man who takes great satisfaction in being the bully. For T, however, the triumph was meaningless. He had unintentionally put Music in 50 Cent's hands by criticizing him in a public setting, in order to support the narrative that the leaked film had initiated. He had given the public fresh footage of him acting violently. The news Music hit the blogs within minutes of the fight's conclusion. The headline that took the place of the leaked music video was T assaults 50 Cent in Atlanta lounge. Both music parties had left by the time the police were called to the scene. The legal ramifications started to build immediately, although no arrests were made right away. Lawyers for both sides were likely on the phone before the dust had even settled on the lounge floor. The abuse in the leaked video was no longer the only issue. It had to do with a possible attack and music battery charge that might put T back in a cage. He has been attempting to stay away from music for the past 10 years. The psychological transformation this confrontation signifies is what makes it so crucial. From content to repercussions, this beef has advanced Music. Maybe it went too well, but 50 Cent's tactic of tormenting people until they finally snapped Music worked. According to sources close to Music 50, he is now stepping up and informing his team that if T wants to play tough guy, he would release the remaining film, which he claims is even more harmful than the first clip. Conversely, T has withdrawn to Music his command center, alleging the tape was stolen and severely altered to fabricate a false narrative. There are rumors that he is preparing a big legal counteroffensive. There is currently a high level of music alert in the industry, fearing that the conflict may affect concerts and public music appearances. Promoters are calling off activities involving either performer. For music barbershops, the argument between the King of the South and the King of New York is no longer entertaining. Someone could lose their life or their freedom in this unstable circumstance. The hush in Atlanta was overwhelming as Music the evening came to an end. A fire was ignited by the digital leak, but the physical assault made it into a forest fire that is now threatening to devour Music and everyone in its path. With the police involved and Music, the alleged victims from the video beginning to come forward, the emphasis moves from the violence of the night to the harsh reality of the following morning. The barriers are getting closer. Even though I delivered a physical blow, 50 Music Cent is getting ready for a social and legal execution that might be the last straw. Is Music there a route out of this for T? That is still the question. The most well-known collapse in hip-hop history was either masterminded by myself or 50 Cent. Music, the cold, Music, sterile reality of the legal system, took the place of the high-octane adrenaline of the streets the morning after the altercation in Atlanta. The debris doesn't simply vanish when two legends of this magnitude Music collide. It turns into the starting point for a court battle worth millions of dollars. The violent altercation in the lounge may have seemed like a fleeting triumph for T's self-esteem. Music, however, as the morning rose above Georgia, it became evident that he had entered a trap created by a man who anticipates 10 steps ahead. While tending to his injuries, 50 Cent is grinning for the cameras. Didn't go to a rematch at a boxing facility? He went to his legal team as a high priest. Hip-hop saw a surge of activity in the immediate aftermath that hasn't happened in years. 50 Cent was suing T Music for assault, battery, and emotional anguish, according to claims leaked by anonymous sources within a day. However, that was only the beginning of Music. The 50 Cent's team's public announcement of a new documentary project, Music called Surviving the King of the South, which switched from a social media leak to a structured music professional production, was the true game-changer. 50 Cent turned a dispute into a lawsuit. He started identifying popular streaming services, hinting that the video he had leaked was just 5% of a bigger body of evidence. T's Music business interests were effectively paralyzed by this action. Big businesses don't wait for a jury's decision in 2026. When they see a documentary that might connect their brand to abuse, they flee. Music, but the Grand Hustle camp didn't simply collapse. In a statement, T changed the focus from the video to the idea of family and safety. He said that 50 Cent had been using his wife Tiny and their kids as pawns in a music online game, bullying them for months. The Atlanta community responded to this with fresh support. We witnessed local authorities and other musicians, such as Killer, Music Mike, and Lad, coming out against the New York bully methods of attacking a man's family rather than necessarily defending the contents of the stolen film. Music Greater Than T presented his physical assault on 50 Cent as household defense rather than abuse. He released a number of harsh, angry songs, such as War and The Right One, demonstrating that even if his business music was being criticized, his pen remained sharp. However, the testimony that everyone had been anticipating finally arrived. The women in the video had an incredible turn of events. A prominent morning talk show featured two of the women in the released video. Instead, the world held its breath, music anticipating a complete denunciation of T. The reality was much more nuanced. They depicted music as a setting of intimidation and power struggles. However, they also claimed that musician 50 Cent was taking use of their trauma to further his own agenda. They said that the 50 Cent's crew had made financial offers to them in order to present their story in a way that would fit his narrative. The tables were flipped by this disclosure. 50 Cent was more than simply a truth teller all of a sudden. He was perceived as a puppet master who used victims to undermine a competitor. The music industry's pact of silence started to break as the case entered the discovery stage. Other musicians began to come forward with accounts of 50 Cent's utilization of similar strategies against music them. The topic of discussion changed from T.I.'s actions to 50 Cent's brand of healthy music for the culture. When the Atlanta District Attorney's Office declared they were initiating an investigation into the lounge fight itself, rather than T.I.'s music past, the consequences reached a breaking point. This was the biggest risk for T. His prior record would almost probably guarantee a significant jail sentence if he were prosecuted with a crime for the attack on 50 Music Cent. The monarch was facing the very serious threat of losing both his freedom and his throne. We witnessed an odd de-escalation in the music last weeks of this story. There were rumors that a high-level industry summit music had taken place. Older names, such as Dr. and Jay-Z. Rumor has it that Dre was involved when he